You have a question? You have a comment? Something you need to say? Let's get after it. I'm Chris Cuomo. Welcome to the response version of the Chris Cuomo Project. It's great to have you here with me on the podcast. Thanks for subscribing and following and getting the free agent merch. Greg has been culling from among the cullable, the questions, the comments, the Cuomo, you suck, all of it. We're going to get after it right now, and let's see where we can make some progress.
Hi, Chris. My name is Scott. I'm calling from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Chris, I just want to express my feelings towards something about this gun violence in America going on today. Instead of trying to take guns away from the pinheads, how about we put a heavy-duty licensing fee on them, and we can get past all the griping about it, because if they care to read on to the Second Amendment, it says to form and maintain a regulated militia. You know, like us Army vets, we have to be qualified on the weapon. We have to be trained on the weapon. That's all I'm saying. If it's good enough for the veterans, why isn't it good enough for everybody else, is all I'm saying. It's maybe an avenue we could go down. I'd like to hear back from you. You're doing a great job, folks. Keep it up.
Look, the history of the jurisprudence of the Second Amendment is easily discoverable. And it was always the way that you're putting it, which is this was like something that was put on the people as opposed from the people putting it on the government. Meaning Washington and others were complaining that people weren't trained, didn't have weapons, the weapons didn't work, and you could never defend this country that way. And they were a little worried in the beginning about having a standing army because that could be used as the tool of a despot. So that's where this came from. And there was never an identified individual right until the Scalia case, which was in the 2000s. So the idea that that's why you need conservatives on the court because they stick to the four corners of the document, well, that's not what happened there. So this is about politics and how you form policy around it. But look, we are where we are with the jurisprudence on the Supreme Court now, and you're not going to take away all the guns anyway. Could you do better with who gets them? Yeah. I mean, I think something as simple as what Canada does or what we do with carry permits for pistols, the vetting that goes into that, why can't you do that? Because then only the good guys do it, and all the bad guys get guns illegally on the street. You're talking about gangbangers, and thieves, and robbers, and burglars, and that's true. But that's one problem that you would deal with one way. The other problem are the mass shootings, which are a very small number of the shootings, but they're ones that you seem to care about the most. That's why the right is always bringing up the gangbang shootings, even though they haven't done a hell of a lot to make those populations and those communities worthy of avenues to dignity where they don't have to have that kind of criminality. They'll say, yeah, but the Democrats run them. Yeah, but where's the funding come from? It's all top down. And a lot of these problems are intractable and multifaceted, and we haven't wanted to invest in it, and which is why we have such socioeconomic disparities in this country, or it's a reason. So you're right about your reckoning, but we moved on in terms of the court's reckoning, and now we got to deal with it. We got to reckon to have a reckoning about the reckoning.
Hey, Chris, I just wanted to ask you a question. How do we possibly get to a medium within the parties? Because we're looking at far rights, far lefts right now, and it's becoming really difficult, and it's becoming a very difficult political landscape, and it's dividing this country more than it is unifying this country. So how is there a way for us to bridge it and possibly connect more? Thank you.
Be a free agent. Be a critical thinker. Be an independent. Leave the parties. That will force the parties to reach out to swing voters and to say things that are more reasonable and measured. And God forbid, or God provide, start to see cooperation as a strength and not as a weakness, because now opposition is the main position. So you also need to have systemic changes in the states where you got to have the primaries be open, because that's what really feeds into this fringe mentality, is these primaries and who gets to be the candidate in the first place, the nominee rather, is that these primaries have the most concentrated vote, which means the most fringe, the most zealous vote. And then you get these candidates that represent those interests that don't necessarily reflect the rest of the party, let alone the rest of the country. Most of you don't want to be in a party. That's a good trend. The trend is your friend. And people leaving the parties is one of the best signs that we can get to a better place.
My name's David. I need to know what channels I and my family should be listening to for the truth of what's happening in the United States of America. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, brother. You should be doing what you're doing, which is sampling me and others. Take yourself out of your comfort zone. The facts are easier to get than the context and their significance and whatever the analysis is. I don't think anybody should be locked into one outlet or one point of view. NewsNation is doing a good job in my appraisal. I think where everything is coming from on the channel is pretty straightforward and obvious. So you'll know like, oh, this guy's kind of a righty, or oh, this guy kind of feels this way, or she feels that way. And I think transparency is the goal of fairness more than this kind of magical goal of objectivity. I don't think human beings are objective on things that go beyond the quantitative. 2 + 2 is always 4. 4 is not always enough, no matter whatever it is you're talking about. It gets subjective. So I think that you should monitor different outlets, especially when it comes to politics. And you should not be afraid of change. You know, like, oh, I've always liked this, but this seems wrong now. Maybe I should try something else. Change. Try something else. Sample different things, okay? Just like you do with the discernment of every other value judgment that you make in your life.
Hi, Chris. This is Diana. I'm from Buffalo, New York. I wanted to say thank you for your wonderful show, your podcast, your walk and talk. It's all awesome. And I wanted to ask you how you're doing, okay? You get a lot of comments from different people as far as, politics and everything that's going on, which is quite a lot. But I was more concerned or interested in how you're doing, because I know that you mentioned that you had some, if you want to say, issues or feelings of depression. So that was my question. How are you doing? How are you feeling with all these changes? Do you feel like you're getting better? Do you feel happier? I hope you are. And that's pretty much it. I hope you're doing well. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend. And thank you so much. Bye-bye.
So first of all, thank you so much with everything you have going on in your life to care about mine and giving me this opportunity. And thank you for checking in on me. The struggle is real. We're all struggling with something. I'm not special in any regard. And I'm certainly no victim of anything other than circumstance, just like you and everybody else. I'm still figuring out professionally what to do. And because of how exposed my profession is and how public facing it is, that bleeds into the personal. And I would say that I am still trying to figure out how to balance what I expose my family to because of being in a public space and face, and trying to expose them to less is very important to me. I think I can do my job and take care of them better than I have in the past. So I'm focused on that and figuring out as I go along. And there's some frustrations, but when aren't there frustrations? And I appreciate that you like what we're offering it up, and hopefully will continue to be a point of value and utility in your life. And when it isn't, let me know, because I don't want to waste my time and I don't want to waste your time. But thank you very much for caring about me. Doing what I can as often as I can, which probably isn't enough, but it's better than nothing. And I'll take it. I got very low expectations. Look what I'm doing. I'm opening something. You know why? Because I go through a lot of this stuff because I take it every day. One scoop in water and I'm done. You should know what it is by now, whether you're listening or watching. Athletic Greens. Why do I like it? Oh, here's why. It's easy. They've done the thinking for me. Over 70 of all the vitamins and the minerals and the adaptogens and the probiotics and the prebiotics. I like it. It's also much more cost effective than buying so many supplements and vitamins separately as I used to. wouldn't get the combinations right. The price was higher. This is easier. They did the thinking for me. It's fine to take. I told you some in the family put it in warm water. I put it in cold water. I'm a big fan. And I'm a big fan of Athletic Greens. I appreciate them as a partner, and I appreciate what they're doing for you. They are going to make it easier for you to take control and ownership over your health. Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs. And the travel packs are very cool because you can't bring the big bag with you. You're not getting through TSA with this. And you will then stay on course when you're away. And often, when do you need to make sure that you've got your body chemistry at its best? When you're traveling. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/CCP. athleticgreens.com/CCP. Are you ready to do better for you? Athletic Greens.
Let's switch gears here and do some YouTube comments. We have a lot of YouTube comments. This is from your interview with Jamel Hill. I don't understand the use of pronouns when for so many years the LGBTQ community fought to just be viewed as everyone else. There's always been feminine men and masculine women. It is all very confusing, yet I respect the conversation.
It is confusing. Change can be difficult. I think wanting to be accepted like everybody else means being accepted on their own terms of what their identity is. And I get that that's confusing. And I find it to be that way as well, although I think that I bring just so much less judgment to it than so many other people do. I have a high level of indifference for other people's actions that don't impact on me or mine. You know what I'm saying? My kid says that that's their reality, their truth. I got to care about it and get into it in a way that I'm not going to if it's you or your kid. Why? Because I stick to my own. And what you decide is right for your life. Yeah, but they're forcing it onto us. They're forcing us. Okay. Well, let's take a look at that. What are you really being forced to do? Well, they were playing sports against girls, and that's not fair. How often is that happening? Well, once is too often. All of a sudden, once is too often. It's amazing how we apply that standard when it's convenient to us. But I do get that it is confusing, and it is upsetting. And when you hear about people who say, I made a mistake, I shouldn't have done this transition thing, that makes it even more upsetting. Oh, but that's so rare. Oh, now they're using the one is not enough. You see what I'm saying? It's like, there's too much politics at play in this. And I believe that there's exaggeration of the relevance of this in our society. Oh, but Bill Maher, you like him. And he says that the percentage of people in the community is expanding exponentially every generation. Soon we'll all be gay. Or some of it is people feeling free about expressing themselves in a way that they didn't before. How many gay men, and especially men, but how many gay men have you heard about being married with kids because they had to live that way to be accepted in society, they thought. So it is confusing. It is frustrating, but how we deal with it matters also. And I think there's just as much trouble on that side as there is what we're dealing with.
This is from your interview with Barbara Corcoran. These are two different opinions on the interview. Jose Gonzalez writes, Chris, what a great interview. It is so great to see you in this format. 5 likes. D writes, be careful and mindful of your guest interviews turning into therapy sessions. 1 like.
What are you trying to say? You're trying to say that you don't want that from an interview. Well, then don't watch it or don't listen to it. I don't have that concern that some might see it as therapeutic or helping them to pursue some deeper questions or truths about themselves or their life or the people around them. And I think that's one of the distinct benefits of perspective from somebody like a Barbara Corcoran, who's lived life in so many different facets and ways and what she's learned about it. See, I care more about struggle and suffering and the human condition than I do the intellectual or provocative interest in hearing a Barbara Corcoran say things about the other guys on Shark Tank or her 3 keys to investing. I'm more interested in the human experience and how we get to know ourselves and be our best selves, and how we keep making efforts in that regard, which is never a finished work. I think that's of more value, certainly to me and to the people I'm trying to reach. And if that's not you, that's cool. There are a lot of podcasts out there, but I'm not going to shy away from somebody offering depth into what I think matters most.
This is from one of your Cuomo on the Couch episodes. This is from Christine Barnes. She writes, I love these talks and look forward to them. I can deal with physical pain, but the emotional stuff, and I have a ton of it, is agonizing. I'm glad I can recognize my lows, and I'm learning how to analyze them. Sign me up if you decide to take this on its own route. So helpful. Thank you, Chris.
I'd need to have like 10 or 20,000 people sign up for like $9 or $10 a month, for the production value and for the time I'd be taken away from other things. There's the question of whether or not I can provide enough value in that regard. You know, like somebody had suggested I get like some kind of coaching certification online or something like that. Their courses, there's so many people who already have such great pedigrees. Why would I want to get into that mix? It's not what I do. I struggle. I want to be helpful. I don't want to give anybody the idea that I have answers that I know will work for you. I just know things I've tried for me and what could work that I haven't made work for myself, and things that do work for me and things that haven't worked for me that may work for you. So I don't know, I may do it. But I really love hearing that somebody is enjoying and benefiting from the process of drilling down on themselves. It's really hard. It's really scary. Physical pain is a lot easier to deal with for me than emotional pain. And I feel you on that, pun intended.
Let's try some YouTube comments right now. This is the first round. That runway guy writes, I wish you would talk about the actual you versus the CNN you. I used to despise you in the short 3-minute clips/debates. However, when you're allotted time to elaborate on your thoughts, I may disagree, but I still respect you. You no longer feel the need to play into the, quote, key phrases and talking points that are zeros or ones.
I appreciate you taking the time to reassess. I do. I don't feel that I'm any different. Look, I feel that I am personally because of what I've gone through and what I've decided to do with my show. And I certainly cover a lot more crime because I think it's a lot more relatable than I do the internecine back and forth between Democrats and Republicans. But I'm telling you, I was not towing any party line at CNN and nobody was asking me to. You know, I was doing what I thought was right in each case. I always had righties and Trump people on more than anybody else in that place. And I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm certainly not judging anybody else. But, you know, this idea that I was under some spell or some, there's some kind of oppression at CNN, it's just not true. And, you know, I think that may say more about how you feel about that place and what you need to be true to suit your politics than it is about the facts and circumstances as they actually are.
I think you're going to like this one. This is from Algier128. They've written multiple comments like this along these lines. Can you honestly tell your podcast guy to stop finding the naysaying critical BS on the phone lines and YouTube? There's critical stuff from people like me who do criticize on subjects from our perspective. Tell them to read those thingies, damn it. So they think I'm only finding the mean stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, Algier, I'm doing my best.
And then did he give a criticism?
In another comment, they went on about the Gorilla Glass thing. Gorilla Glass on any Apple or Android phone doesn't mean your ass, spelled AZZ, shouldn't have a good, sturdy, reliable case on it. The Gorilla Glass just helps it not be further damaged if your phone is dropped inside of the phone case. Take it from a lady who has had Androids, a past whack iPhone, and a really good Windows phone who never had screen damage.
Listen, if you're going to call it Gorilla Glass, it shouldn't break. And this stuff cracks way too easy, which is why so many of us need Apple Care, and that there are all these side hustle guys out there that can repair the glass on your screens, and we all need it so often. Now, that said, I have a case on my phone.
New phone too.
New phone and a case.
We're gonna put a link in here for the old episode that shows your decrepit old phone.
Well, but that was part of it, is that, you know, when I got into that mess in Ukraine and the phone got smashed, I was like, well, it's over now. All the cameras are destroyed, all the glass was broken. What do I have a case on it for? Although I learned what the answer to that question was. I had the case on because I kept having shards of glass get stuck in my hand like an idiot. I'm also really hard on phones, and no, not just because of Ukraine. The biggest problem for me with the phone is that, and I've been using my phone less and less, by the way. That's true. I told you I was going to be trying to do that, and I really am. I'm really surprised at how well it's going. We really don't need these things as much. More is not always better. It's the boat. It's the fishing and the boat. I fish a lot when other people would be in an office, and I have to be available. So I have a lot of slimy, bloody, wet situations, if I'm lucky, right? If we're in the fish, where I then have to answer the phone or take a picture, and I drop the phone and bad things happen. And I'm very hard on phones. I really am. So I have a cover on it now. Let's focus. I got much bigger faults than this.
I thought people taking their phones into the toilet was gross. It's just covered in fish heads and worm guts and all that. So don't ever let anybody borrow your phone and get some disinfectant.
I clean my phone a lot.
Do you have one of those things like the Delta Lounge where it's like a UV machine and it just like scrambles all the germs on top of it?
No, I don't believe in it. Although, you know what I do that I think does work?
Dishwasher?
Two things. One, I take sponges and I put them in the microwave because that kills a ton of stuff. And if my wife is always getting rid of it, but I like to take these little dishes and put a cap full of bleach and some soapy water in it, and I leave the sponge in it.
Your bleach solution? Yeah.
It kills everything. And it gives you a good start on using the sponge because it's always wet, moist as you would. I think we have to go now.
Don't we want to hear more about your your phone cleaning bleach solution?
No, but I clean it all the time.
Okay, good. That's for all of you out there. And I'm sorry if you don't like the questions.
Thank you again for loading for bear and coming without a care. I appreciate you for giving me the opportunity and taking the time to scrutinize and to even say nice things, even though Greg doesn't use them, and now we're all aware. Thank you so much for subscribing and following. I'll see you on News Nation, 8p and 11p every weekday night. You can figure out where the channel is at the top of the page, or there'll be a button. Let's get after it. Take care of yourself and take care of the people you care about.